I ain't doing it. It's your turn.
All right, I'm just fucking moving
Fucking
the mic.
do it,
Well,
you bitch.
don't you trash talk me, hon. You're the bottom in this relationship. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 4 of Silent and the Death Machine. Four Horsemen. I am indeed the Death Machine portion of Silent and the Death Machine, and joining me, of course, is Silent Mark. You can guess which portion he is.
Hello.
How you doing, buddy?
Not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. Well, I say not too bad. It's been a shit week.
That was a lie. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was just a lie.
Yeah. It's been a very shit week.
Been going on, or what do you care to divulge?
My work, something triggered me massively the other day, and I didn't realize it how bad. We're going dark first thing apparently, so I apologize to everyone out there. But I was in I was at work and a guy was going through usual conspiracy theories and shit. Couldn't help him with what he needed to. And then he said that I'm fucking useless and that I'm a disappointment.
Oh, okay.
And one thing I didn't realize was how the word disappointment triggers the living fuck out of me. Bless you. Yeah, I had no idea that was a thing for me.
What, being called a disappointment?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm used to that with women, so you know.
Well, yeah. Yeah, but
what do you mean? Well, yeah.
Being a
well, I mean, yeah. Look
is
at you.
part of the course for people like us, mate. But yeah, it was a difficult one.
Why?
Really, really
Why
difficult.
did they consider you a disappointment? What triggered that?
Because I didn't let him call me a fucking idiot.
Okay.
I picked him up on that, and he said, "Oh, what are you, a snowflake? I thought you were a man." But that didn't bother me. But then said, "You're a fucking disappointment."
What was the contentious issue though that would lead him to call you a snowflake?
Oh, because he called me a fucking idiot, and I said, "There's no need to talk to me like that."
Especially not in the workplace.
Yeah, yeah. So apparently, I should have the word "fucking idiot," just be able to take it and not have any
Well, I mean,
thought
it
behind it
depends on
whatsoever.
context and tone as well. Like, if he just goes, "Oh, Mark, you fucking idiot," it's like one thing. But if he's like, "You're a
Yeah,
fucking idiot," it's like, all right, what's
yeah,
that for?
yeah. So that
Oh,
was, and that kind of set up my weekend. Really, I had a lovely weekend with the kids. Really, really good weekend with them. But yeah, it's my mental health has been down there now for a bit because of
does this
that.
cock waffle have a name?
Um,
Is it Brian?
I don't actually. He fucking is. He Brian? No, he's a Keith.
Fuck you, Brian.
He's a fucking Keith.
So Keith, well, he can
Yeah,
fuck off, is what he
he
can
can.
do. And if you happen to watch this at any point, suck my dick.
Fuck you, Keith.
You fucking Keith.
So yeah,
Sorry to hear that, mate.
that's how my week's been. And it's strange that those small little, just a one word sentence can set you off.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how strong or how thick-skinned or thin-skinned you are. Like, people will say things, and if they catch you at the wrong time, it can affect you.
Yeah, and it's
we
one
spoke
because I've
about
always
being kind, didn't we, recently? And
yeah, because it's always come. I've always wanted to make my parents proud and stuff, and I've never thought I have done. I'm not where they wish I was, or what I thought they wish I was. They're proud of me. They're glad of who I am and where I am and what I do and stuff. But I've always wanted to make sure I'm not a disappointment. And being called it, even by someone who's a bellend, that fucking got to me. And it was strange.
well, his opinion doesn't fucking matter. Not that that makes it any easier for your mind, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. But it's one of those things. It does happen. How was your week?
Productive so far. We're recording this on what, Tuesday. We probably need to get the episodes out quicker, don't we? Just so we can catch up, so we're a little bit more topical, I guess. But
I kind of like not being topical. It's quite nice. I feel good. The next two are scheduled for the next 2 Wednesdays.
Every Wednesday, like clockwork.
Indeed, you do. With that in mind, so obviously last week before we record this, so last Wednesday, the first episode came out. And I actually have numbers from our podcast listens, not the video ones, which you'll be watching this on, but the video ones, the audio ones, sorry, that you will be listening to this
Hit
on.
me with your figures, Silent Mark.
My figures are, we have an audience at the moment of 11. We have an audience of 11, which for one episode isn't bad. Mostly on Spotify. We are a sausage fest because only men have listened to this.
Of course we are.
And we've had, I think, one listen from Japan.
Really?
Yeah. So if you're our Japanese listener, hello. Hope you're well. So yeah, there will be more stats at some point with those.
If you what a cold open, eh?
I know.
How about them Japanese, pal? Yeah, if you're from abroad or particularly a place like Japan, send us a message. Let us know who you are and what you do, and give us your DNA. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, just let us know what you think, and yeah, it's nice. It's just random, isn't it? Could be a tech giant for all we know. They could be on us.
And apparently, everyone who's listened to it has listened all the way through.
Really? That is
apparently so.
Yeah, I thought as soon as I started talking, boom, off we go.
No. Well, no, it does go off very quickly when you start talking because people are just desperate to have a wank.
It's very kind of you.
You're welcome.
Not necessarily true, but very kind.
So what's your productive week been?
Most obviously wrestling related. I had a show on Saturday for Rumble, which was fantastic. I then obviously had plenty of work and editing to do after the fact, so quite a busy weekend. And then sort of one thing I really enjoy with my line of work is that sometimes I get quick turnaround projects. So people will message me and say, I want this, this, and this, but I need it within a couple of days. And for me, that's great because that tests my abilities more. If someone says, make me a video and you've got all the time in the world, don't get me wrong, I'm still going to enjoy that. But I like pressure in my line of work. You know, I like reflecting and reacting to situations in the moment. And I do well at that, particularly in wrestling. Like I fancy myself as a problem solver. I'm obviously the fixer, as everyone calls me. And yeah, so a show the weekend before that, I think I spoke to you, forgot some of my gear, which is not like me. That obviously wasn't a problem the second time around. Very rarely do I make the same mistake twice, unless it's involving women. So for me, it was lovely to kind of work on the fly. And then ironically enough, what that did is that was a positive because it could have been, I can imagine me without the sertraline, without any kind of focus on my mental health. I would have been like, oh, and panicked and freaked and, made a mess of it. Whereas I was just like sat there looking at the equipment I had. Right, okay, cool. Well, we have cameras. We don't have the gimbal. We're going to work with this camera because it's a little bit more portable. And then later in that week, I was afforded the opportunity to use a high-end lens on the camera and practice with that during the week. And then I thought, I'm going to try that out this weekend. And I bought a bracket and I bought a new camera. And I just invested a heavy amount of money, probably about $1,000's worth of money in new equipment. And it's got to that point now where I feel like I am capable of producing a cinematic or same level of quality of work as anyone else. I feel like I'm a competitor for it. So it was nice to be able to take a moment of frustration and turn it into a more productive line of reasoning. And then obviously recording this podcast offers me an opportunity to vent in a different way. The Wrestle Plug is on fire. We've done watch alongs. I've been editing like a madman. And I've also been enjoying the little things like staying up and watching the NFL, watching my absolute fucking abortion of an American football team just shit the bed. Thank you very much, Denver. You fucking idiots. 280 million on a quarterback. Fuck's sake. Yeah, no, it's been a good week so far, but it's only Tuesday. But yeah, no, I've got a lot coming up. Shows this Saturday and Sunday, then shows the following Wednesday, the following Friday, the following Saturday, and the following Sunday. So that's where my brain is like, yeah, like, I don't get a chance to stop. And in between that, I'm trying to keep the productivity level on the wrestle plug, make sure these are edited and thrown out there. When I say edited, literally just putting, we don't cut anything on here really, other than maybe if I run off to, you know, check on my pie, and that's not a euphemism, I wish it was. And yeah, no, like there's been a few things that have been on my mind. Loneliness, and not necessarily in a relationship, but kind of enjoying other people's company. I think it's when you, so I live in a very isolated area in Kent. You know, I live basically in a forest, and obviously in a house. I don't literally live in a forest because it'd be very difficult to keep my camera gear dry. But you know, I think it's made worse, ironically. So I look forward to these shows because I get to see a multitude of different people, my friends, professionals. Some shows are a little bit more nerve-wracking than others. The one I've got this Sunday, a couple of people who don't like me. That's cool. Like, you know, not everyone's going to like you. Unfortunately, their reasoning is a bit weird, but whatever. So that has its own, you know, anxiety pitfalls. But I feel like mentally I'm in a much better place to handle that and not rise to that nonsense, especially in a profession where being humble and showing respect is very important. So for me, getting to work with new clients is good as well. But like I say, I go to these shows and it's a social element for me. It's more than anything else. Yes, it's nice to earn money. Yes, it's nice to be an independent craftsman. But then you get home again and you're back in the, you know, for lack of a better term, in the middle of nowhere. And, you know, you sit there and obviously tech makes it easier to be social with people. I can message you, I can ring you, I can message Cam. I've got the State of Wrestling address tomorrow. You know, those things are stuff to look forward to and they're fun, but it's not the same as meeting someone in person. Talking to people in person is so refreshing and real in a world where we don't want to do it nearly as much. We've become a very anxious and nervous society anyway. COVID made that tenfold worse. And I think people got comfortable with COVID. Because what it did, it created, they were forced into a bubble, and then they realized they were comfortable with that bubble because they were in it for so long. With me, I was really scratching at the walls. COVID hurt me really badly. My mental health declined severely. Relationships collapsed with friends and other people. And, you know, it just was a very trying time. And I've rebounded from that well. Not everyone has, though. And some people have grown used to the comfort of their own company. And there's nothing wrong with having your own company, but it's nice to know. What I want is the ability to chill out by myself. That's cool. But then have that opportunity at any point to ring up. Hey, want to go for a drink? Hey, want to go out to the bar? Want to go for a dance? Want to have sex? You know, whatever that might be. It'd be nice to have those options. Those are much more difficult for someone like me. A lot of that is geographical based because of where I am. Yeah, sure, I can get the train into London. But again, I'm not one of these people who can just go to a bar by myself. I can go to the football by myself. I can go to the wrestling by myself. So, but obviously, you know, it's cost of living crisis, not having an extreme amount of money. I'm not poor by any means, but I don't have money to throw around willy-nilly. And so that kind of hampers me as well. So I think, yeah, just long, in an elongated way, getting to the point. Not necessarily lonely, but suffering from the odd fit of loneliness is very different. I don't overall feel like I'm a lonely person. And I'm getting to a mental state where I'm like, no, I don't need to be with someone. I'm quite happy within myself. I like who I am to a certain degree. There are things that I need to work on, things that I need to put more work on. But overall, yeah, no, it's the social aspect, I think. It's refreshing to see human beings. It's refreshing to see people's faces. And that's not something that's afforded to me as easily where I live.
That's understandable. I can massively get that. I feel like I'm kind of the opposite. I saw something the other day about being an extroverted introvert, where people do think I'm an extrovert because of obviously my job and what I do, and you know the type of person I can be, which we've spoken about on the podcast before. But the fact that I'm the opposite, where I'm quite happy sat there not doing anything, and the idea of someone just calling me up and going, "Oh, do you fancy coming out for a bit?" I have to be in a very, very, very good place to go, you know what? Yeah. More times often than not, I need to have a fucking run up to be able to go out and socialize. And don't get me wrong, I miss talking to people, you know, and when I do go out, I do have a good time. I'm not antisocial in that aspect. But if someone says, "Oh, do you fancy hanging out at the end of the week?" It can come to the end of the week and I can be like, "No, I can't fucking do that." But if I go, right, well, in a couple of weeks I'm off, yeah, I'll hang out then. Because then I've got a run up, then I can mentally prepare myself for that.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I've always been that person that can be by themselves. I always fucking have been. Have you always found that? Have you always found that you did want to be with others?
I think for me, like, I've always been quite impulsive, and I never really clocked into that until I got older because I was riddled with social anxiety to a point where I was just terrified to go outside. I was the kid who enjoyed staying indoors for 12 hours and playing GTA and not speaking to anybody. And back then it was easier because, phones, although a thing, were not as prominent. I wasn't able to go on my phone and watch God knows whatever. Like, you can do anything, literally anything via a phone now. But I've always been very impulsive. I like spontaneous moments. I like just kind of jumping into the moment with a lot of things, and wrestling always affords you the opportunity. And that's the other thing as well. I like quirky, weird settings. I don't like the norm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one of these people who's gonna, you know, find joy in mundanity as much as other people do. And good for you if you do. But like, I don't enjoy going shopping, for instance, really. Not at least for just food and stuff. It's different story if I'm at the Nike outlet or whatever, because my one vice is shoes, sneaks. But yeah, no, I've always been very impulsive. So for me, I'm definitely introverted, but I have extrovert traits.
Mm-hmm.
So, like at Colosseum, when we did that wrestling show, you're out there in front of people, for better or for worse, however you feel in that moment. And you do a great job of that. And then obviously at the beginning of the show, they introduced us, didn't they? And we had to come out as announcers and stand on the stage. I thought we were just going to walk out, sheepishly go to our little, spot and then just sit down and commentate. And, I had to speak to a large crowd in a big room. And the initial feeling was one of fear and anxiety. However, once I was there and stood there, I realized that I am a showman, that I can entertain, that I can talk. And then all of a sudden, what you saw was Aeron Nix, the podcaster, come through more. Aeron Nix, the wrestler, Aeron Nix, the videographer, whatever it might be. And then I realized, no, like I can talk. I can talk and I can speak eloquently and I can get to the fucking point if needs be, although I do like to ramble on. And that was a flashpoint where I realized, no, you're actually an extrovert in the sense of how you behave. The problem is that your mental aspects are very introverted.
Mm-hmm.
I'll avoid, scenarios. I know that if I wasn't as good in my current state of mental health, that something like this Sunday would be a big anxiety trigger for me.
Yeah.
Whereas I opted to, I've opted, you might have seen, I put a TikTok on my Facebook kind of making light of it a little bit, like, walking into a locker room with heat, because I just thought, go own it. You can't avoid confrontation forever. So I tend to just go for it a little bit more now. And I'll just, I'll walk into the room and I'll see what happens. And I'll trust that the situation won't escalate enough that things get nasty. Whereas I wouldn't even take that risk. I used to be like, oh, someone may not like me. Oh, I'm not going in that room. I'm scared. Like, whereas now I'm like, do you know what? Realistically, 99% of the time, that's always a mental hurdle. But I've realized this 99% of the time, nothing ever happens. It never does. You think it's going to because your brain will always think the worst. But, like, I get anxious or I get nervous. Oh, have I done something wrong? Will I get pulled over by the police if my light's out? Stupid things that don't really mean that much in the grand scheme. Whereas now, with the steadyment of the mental health and the meds working the way they do and basically giving me the correct balance, I'm realizing, no, actually, this is the true me. And that's what sertraline is supposed to do, I think, to me at least, is make me the real me more by giving me the correct chemical balance in my brain and making sure that dopamine is delivered in the correct margins and making better decisions for myself. Calculated risk sometimes. I mentioned that on the last podcast, taking calculated risks off. It's a bit of a risk buying camera gear, especially in this economy or whatever, but it was backed up by being good enough to consistently get the work to cover the fees.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I'm looking at it with this hunt for a car. Anyone who's close to me will know I'm currently embroiled in this stressful fucking time because I could go out and buy a banger for £300. What's the point if it breaks down in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Then it's going to be more aggro than it's worth. I've learned over the years to apply my knowledge, and I'm thinking, well, last time you bought a car, it was reasonably pricey. You bought it on finance, but it was a car that was reliable and low mileage and reasonably modern. So you need to draw upon that experience and look for the correct cars, do the research. What's reliable? What's a good price? What can I afford finance wise? What can I not afford? What can I afford to buy with a loan or whatever it might be? You know, making sure the risks are calculated. So, yeah. Other than the search for a car, I feel like I'm doing just fine. But I am one of those people. Doesn't matter how good my life is, I will still find something to stress about.
Oh yeah.
But the good thing is those stressful moments don't at the moment interfere with my mental health as such, as they are just what they're supposed to be, which is a moment of stress where you think, okay. But even last night, I remember laying down my head at ridiculous o'clock in the morning. The game went to overtime. I didn't get to bed till about 5:30 in the morning. And I just laid there and I thought, I need to get a fucking car sorted. And in that moment, I realized that if I wasn't taking meds, if I was in a bad state of mind, I would have freaked, or I would have made a big deal out of it, and it would have made it more difficult for me to enjoy a productive day to day. Whereas I just sat there and thought, solution. There is a solution. We'll find it. Be patient. If not, don't worry about it. Got this weekend sorted. Cool. Let's worry about how we do next Wednesday. There's always solutions. They're always there. You just got to look for them.
Apparently, I'm waiting for a connection from you.
Yes, unfortunately, my camera has been playing up like a fucking asshole lately. Oh, it's disconnected and reconnected.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know, right? Fun.
Waiting for IV cam connection.
Exactly, and that's basically who I am now, is a screen that says IV cam connection, which apparently I'm not allowed to... Oh, no, it says I'm connected, but yet the video isn't... There we go.
There we go. You're back.
Yeah, basically my smartphone that I use as a webcam is dying. So I apologize.
Nice.
What I will do for the benefit of the viewers is I will put in a hilarious picture whenever it cuts out. So, yeah, no idea why.
I'm looking forward to watching that.
Yeah, that might add a little bit of intrigue in case people are thinking they're rambling on.
What's he going to do next?
Oh, picture of, Harambe. Good stuff.
Just a massive anus.
Could do. But I'm already
and
on.
And Nix then puts a thing up.
Yes, that was the joke. Thank you. Fucking stand-ups, honestly. Cretins.
It's been a fucking while.
What are we talking about? We were talking about controversial opinions, weren't we, on the last podcast?
That was 2 podcasts ago. Controversial opinions about films. I've got a controversial opinion.
I've got controversial opinions about everything, so I'm happy to do, just talk about things that are upset. I'm good at upsetting people. I've been doing that for years now on the Wrestle Blog.
I do it accidentally.
Oh, I do it on purpose.
I get giddy and I just say things.
That's not a problem. That's why we got you on the watch-alongs.
You say that's not a problem. It has been.
Yeah, but it's a problem for those people. Like, I don't want to bring up the snowflake thing again, but you can tell if someone says something that's offensive. I feel like we should be able to differentiate as to whether they're an offensive person. Saying something offensive doesn't mean you're an offensive person. It just means in that isolated moment, you might have said something that's untoward. I do that all the time, whether it be slurs or cursing or bad opinions that are relayed the bad way, or maybe speaking into an aggressive tone. It doesn't mean that I'm a horrible person. It just means in that moment that I've allowed emotion to get away with that moment a little bit too much, and I need to rein it back in, or just fucking go with it and double down on it.
I've got the thing of, as I've said before, my brain doesn't let me stop anything that's going on upstairs. If I think it's funny, I'll come out with it, and there's never any nastiness behind it. There's never any. There's no harm meant anywhere.
There's no malice.
Yeah. Whereas sometimes it just happens. But this week, as it's October, scary month, I always do scary films as much as I can. I watched The Exorcist. Apparently one of the best horror films ever made. I found it boring.
That's because it's a product of its own time and it doesn't relate as well in this modern age.
it was preamble for an hour and a half, and then 20 minutes of scare.
I have a fun fact about The Exorcist.
Go on.
You know the little girl in it?
Yes.
Obviously, her head spins around, all that shit. She's the most iconic character of it. She grew up to be the on-screen fictional manager for the S Club 7 series.
Did she?
That's her, yeah.
Linda Blair? I think that's her
Possibly.
name.
Yeah.
I think that's her name. She also did a spoof of The Exorcist called Repossessed that had Leslie Nielsen in it.
Oh, I love Leslie Nielsen.
Oh, same. Fucking same.
Yeah.
Did you also hear that they're apparently going to reboot The Naked Gun?
No, I don't want that. I don't want that.
They're not
With who?
Liam Neeson.
I can see that because he's got a similar look, but nah, that's not for me.
I have positives and negatives about it. The negatives, firstly, it shouldn't happen. There's no need for it.
Yeah.
Secondly, doesn't have the Abrams in it. Doesn't have the Zukas in it involved. And there's no need for it. But so there's two lots of no need for it. But the positives I will come out with. They're not having it as Frank Drebin. It's Frank's son.
Okay.
So they're not doing it as kind of like trying to take over from Leslie Nielsen. They're just continuing a story.
Yeah, but I never cared about the story as such.
No.
I cared about the characters.
Yeah.
I cared about.
I think it'll be similar.
The
other positive I've got is they've picked Liam Neeson, who isn't massively known for his comedy chops.
No, he's not. No.
He's very good.
He's got a very particular set of skills.
Yeah. But I do think it's. I do think it's going to be good. The fact that it's going to have that element of serious actor with stupid things going on around him, which made a film like Airplane so fucking good.
Yeah, no, don't have any interest. I will watch it if it's presented to me, but I mean, there's films that I really want to see that I just haven't been asked to go. This is something like I used to go to cinema a lot with an ex, and like I've never really, I just don't care enough. I don't have the wherewithal, or I just can't be bothered. I'm just not making the effort. I'm not motivated enough to go to a cinema. I really want to see Bullet Train. I was watching the football last night. Turns out that it's now already available to download or in that way. So I'm sure I will watch it in a very legal sense. But other than that, yeah, no, I'm not motivated by long films anymore. I'm more motivated by TV series, documentaries, things like that. And even then, I don't really. Do you know what? I'm veering away from fiction a lot as I get older. Like I don't, like people who, for instance, like the people I live with and stuff, they'll be like, oh, do you wanna sit down and watch, I don't know, 5 episodes of The Boys? No, not really. Like, if it's not productive to me, or if it's not something that I actively seek out, I probably won't watch it. I did watch Dharma. That was just happenstance. I was working away on a computer and I put it on in the background. I thought I'll put it on in the background and see how it goes. And then before I knew it, I'd watched the whole thing in a row.
Nice.
Kind of just, like it was good. It was really good. But I'm not one of those people that you're going to be able to, I don't know, maybe it's past relationship issues and stuff like that, but I don't see the enjoyment in sitting down and watching 5 or 6 hours of Netflix, unless it's really something that caters towards me, like Tiger King, for instance, which is in its essence very pro wrestling, ridiculous over the top. Like, and funnily enough, he did work briefly for the NWA as a commentator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, can't wait to get hold of that footage. But yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know.
I get what you mean. I'm going more towards film now than series, where I used to watch 3 or 4 episodes of a thing in a night. I don't anymore, because I'm like, am I really in the mood for it? And I'll fleet. But if I'm watching, so like if there's a series I want to watch, I will make sure that I'm watching it religiously. if there's not something I'm in the mood for, the only thing that will really happen is I'll watch an episode and then it'll come to an end. I'll go, I can't really be asked. So I'll never go back to it. Whereas with a film, you're invested for that 2 hours and that's it. You're fucking done. So it's a lot easier for me to do that. But yeah, I'm again the opposite with it because I want to get out of my real world. Watching a documentary, I only really watch documentaries for things that irritate me.
Yeah.
So I'll watch things like when Louis Theroux did the documentary about the Westboro Baptist Church.
That was great.
And yeah, and I'll watch it like that because those people will fucking anger me. And I'll purposely go out of my way to do that. Because apparently I've got issues.
I think everyone does, though. That's why people watch these making a murderer things on Netflix and stuff, because they're fascinated by the macabre. They're fascinated by things that they most likely will not do themselves. There's this new series that's just dropped called, well, it's just dropped on Peacock via Sky. It's been out in America for a little while, called A Friend in the Family. And it's based on the real life story of that guy. I can't remember his name, Broberg or something. And he abducted this girl twice over a series of 4 years. You know,
That's just carelessness.
Well, this is the funny thing. Like, he abducted this girl. I thought, rather dangerously, I searched it up on my laptop because I wanted to sort of understand what it was actually about. Because the trailer doesn't give anything away. You have no clue, which is a good thing, I think. But I was just like, what the fuck? Like, it looks cool, but it's filmed very cinematically and very stylish and very kind of darker, sort of washed out tones, you know, to represent the 70s, which is when it's based in. And I thought, I'll have a Google, have a look and see what it's all about. And turns out it's about this, basically this rampant paedophile. And you're like, oh, okay. But that just
is it a careless family?
Well, this is when I read up about it. So the true story is, so this guy, this is wild, this story. So I won't, it's a bit dark. So trigger warning for anyone who's.
My ex fucking told me about it. And I remember saying exactly the same thing then. Of just like twice.
Yeah. Like, long story short, guy infiltrates a family pretending to be their best friend, falls in love with their 12-year-old daughter, and then basically abducts her and creates a scenario where she wakes up and believes she's being spoken to by aliens. Bear in mind, this is in the 70s, not now. And then she believes that the only way she can save this alien race is by mating with him and having a child with him, which is fucking gnarly and terrifying and all kinds of. Yeah, I know, right? It's funny in a really macabre way.
It is.
And then what's really scary is, so, they find out where he is eventually and whatever. He gets a slap on the wrist from the church. That's it. They're like, naughty, naughty, because apparently the church is quite into that sort of thing anyway. Just saying.
The church have a problem with paedophilia? Never.
We'll get onto another religious story in a bit because I cannot wait to share this one. So, and I'm probably going to get shot for that. But, and then he somehow, so they return the child. And he somehow is able to worm his way back into the same family and abduct her again. Like, at that point, like, okay, they're all qualifiers. Like, apparently he had an affair with the woman who was the mother of the daughter. And then he also got the guy to toss him off. She's fucking, it's just weird. It's just fucking out there, like really weird. Which is probably why it's being made into a TV series or has been made into a TV series, because it's so... if you listening to it now, you're probably thinking this just sounds ridiculous. It is, but it happened. Like, but then if you'd said that about Dharma, if I told you the story of Dharma and said, is that true or not? You'd be like, probably not. That's a load of nonsense. Surely that's not true. Yeah. Turns out people are really fucked. Really fucked. But that's the thing. My point is that we're all obsessed with this. We're obsessed with this nature. We're all guilty of it. We all love it. Why do people watch horror films? Because they enjoy being scared, because they enjoy being chilled, because they enjoy being pushed to their own limits. Why would, like, Walking Dead, I've watched all of that. That's bloody depressing for the most part. There's a few funny bits, but overall it's bloody depressing and it's dark. But it's because we're fascinated with that macabre nature of, could we survive ourselves in a zombie apocalypse? Could we, if the earth turned asunder or burnt under our very own noses, could we survive? I
can answer it easily. My answer would be no, I can't.
I like to think I'd be okay, in the sense of, because I can be quite ruthless, but nobody truly knows what they're going to be like. But I am one of these fucking weirdos who sits there and thinks, I wonder what it'd be like if Aaron Nix was in the zombie apocalypse. And it would depend on who's around me and who I care about. If I didn't have anyone, if I was completely on my own, if I didn't have any friends of that, you'd find that those people would probably survive a lot longer. Because they'd be able to isolate and lock themselves away or whatever, survive and make do on what they have. There are this section of people, unsurprisingly, mostly in America, and they're obsessed with this idea of doomsday, aren't they? They have bunkers, they have nuclear blast-proof bunkers. They've actually, I believe they call it Teotihuacan, which is the end of the world as we know it. Okay, so there's series and documentaries based on these people where they are stockpiling goods and creating bunkers and making weapons grade defense systems and things.
Doomsday preppers, as they're called.
Yeah. And I'm fascinated by that. Are they lunatics? Possibly, but they're also very, very intriguing. And I think that's what we like. That's why we like watching documentaries about 450 stone people who have to be airlifted out of bed to go down the shop. Because we're fascinated by something that we can't possibly comprehend ourselves becoming.
True. Very, very true. I get so annoyed with programs like that. And it's part of that curiosity thing. But where I think my ex watched a documentary about that dude who it
was made into a documentary 3 or 4 years ago.
And I remember her mentioning about the fact that he got back into the family and then had an affair with the mum and wanked off the dad separately. And I just got so like, what the fuck is going on in those people's minds? Like, you raped my daughter, yeah? You she's only young and you persuaded her.
They didn't know that because she allegedly denied it. She just basically said, no, nothing happened, because she was genuinely fearful that aliens would strike her down and kill her if she revealed any details.
Yeah, but even then, even without that, it's like, oh, you took my daughter away. All right, okay. I'll have a hand job. That's fine. How the fuck does that happen?
I like the fact I've got this image now of you being in his place, and instead of it being a really harrowing display of power and manipulation, you're just like, like, do you know what? It's been a while. She's a dickhead. Crack on, sunshine.
It's like he's not even like kind of persuaded this man whose child he abducted. He hasn't persuaded him to wank him off. He's gone, you know what? No. I had your daughter. I apologize. Let me do you a favor.
Oh, no. Apparently, this guy wanked him off.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah. So it was a position
that
of
much
power.
of a deal I can get.
But it apparently, it comes down to that thing of manipulation. He had a lot of things on them. They didn't want, because back in those days, the church would frown upon affairs and things of that nature. So it was that thing of like, he always put himself in a position where he had the knowledge, where he had the control.
So that makes more sense than him wanking the other dude off.
Yeah, the whole thing is essentially a really dark Alice in Wonderland like rabbit hole experience of what manipulation can do and what you can achieve.
It's especially like it sounds like if the dude who made We Need to Talk About Kevin wanted to make a Carry On film.
Interesting hypothesis.
Like without not knowing how to do the humor in it, just go for the properly.
You like Carry On films, do you?
Say again?
You like Carry On films?
Oh yeah. Classics.
Is it Carry On Cleopatra?
Fucking love that film.
That's like one of my favorites because it's just such a damning representation of my people. But I thought Cleopatra was so hot.
She fucking was.
It is. Yeah. Ow. It's just something about it. It's just so funny and British.
Yeah. It's just good. It's just good.
We are the kings of comedy.
I have there's something that annoys me about being a fan of stuff. And that is the fan base.
What, gatekeeping?
No, just in general.
Oh, okay.
Gatekeeping's annoying enough. but there is nothing more exhausting about being a fan of the thing than other fans. Like a friend of mine, Lucy, who does the reporting for Odyssey Pro Wrestling, amazing writer. She made a very, very good point of, Bray Wyatt's now coming back to SmackDown and stuff. She went, people are now coming out of the woodwork and going, oh yeah, name one good Bray Wyatt match. I'm like,
Yeah.
fucking enjoy a thing.
Or don't watch it if you don't like it.
Yeah. And Blink 182 have come back. So, I look on a news story where the music video is, and there's just all sorts of comments like, oh, these guys aren't punk rock. And I'm like, if you don't just fucking let people have things.
Yeah, no, that's a society we live in, unfortunately.
I know. But it's fans of anything, and everyone's just a bell end.
Yeah, most people are like 99%. Even like companies like Rumble, for instance. Like, I love the fan base, but there's so many toxic elements to it. People who want to interfere, people who want to get on the ring apron. Even if it's not necessarily to do with them per se. Like the amount of shows I've done where kids will try and get in the ring, or they'll just randomly run around when I'm trying. And I'm like, can you sit the fuck down? Like, I don't like kids anyway. Everyone who knows me knows I hate children. I would never have children. I think kids are fucking annoying, shitebag, reprobate pricks. They're just fucking vermin. I don't like your kids. I don't want to spend time with your kids. I don't want to babysit your kids. I don't want to look at shitty photos of your shitty kids. All right? They all look like I said, they all look like turnips, mate. They all look like parsnips. Go away. They all look like tiny big shows. Not interested.
Call back.
Yeah, see, that's continuity, pal.
You've not been able to think of anything else when you see Big Show now, have you?
Well, just the usual stuff, which is, wow, that guy sucks. Funny guy, but sucks. For me, I'm just, oh, fuck off. Like this child culture, right? So you're a parent. What is it that parents seem to think? Why is it right that parents seem to think, this is going to upset a lot of people? I don't care. I'm so fucking sick and tired of you people thinking that your children, and because you've had children, not necessarily you, obviously, but I'm just going to direct this at all parents. You can all suck dick. Like it happens everywhere you go. So I'll go to Costa, for instance, right? I'm a bit of a fucking, a wetty. I like to sit there with my latte like a hipster, and I like to sit on my laptop and do editing and stuff in the corner of Costa in a quiet hour, or during business hours when it's quiet, work hours, whatever. And there'll always be that fat, disgusting blob of human being who brings in her 7 council kids or whatever it is, and she'll sit down and be like, she won't even order anything remotely. Like, she'll just be like, I just want some sugar in a cup, please. More diabetes. And then she'll just sit there with this cup, and she'll fucking let her disgusting, ugly little fucking vermin run around the place, and they're wrestling each other, or they're throwing chairs about, or they're making the staff's life a misery. And at that point, I think, can we bring back the cane, please? Like, fuck off. Control your children or fuck off. That's how I look at it. Teach your kids some feckin' manners as well. Do you know what? If I behaved like that as a kid, my mum would have beaten the shit out of me. She did. Regular times. She used to beat the everlasting shit out of me for that. And people are like, oh, well, that was a different time. You should never smack your kids. Fuck off, mate. You're lucky I don't smack your kids for you, because they're irritating little gobshites. So annoying. What a bunch of keefs running around, mate. No, and then the worst thing is the dad as well. As a father, you're meant to be the symbol of strength and, manhood and discipline or whatever. You're looking at me like, this is news to me.
I'm doing it wrong.
Society says that's what you're supposed to be. I think that's a load of bollocks. But when you see them, and they're like completely numb. They look like the fucking mannequins from Doctor Who before they come to life. Complete apathy to the situation, like nothing going on, like just like, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, little Timmy's just he's just stolen a croissant and shoved it in a cat's asshole, and he's like, yeah, and he's just sitting there with his, mouth breathing away. I was thinking, oh fuck you, like, why did you inseminate this woman? What's wrong with you? Like, just fucking, why did you waste our time? Useless. Don't bring kids into the world unless they're going to actually benefit our society.
Welcome to this episode of Silent Mark and the Tory.
Hey, I am no Tory. I am. What? So Tories hate your children? Do you know what? Fine, I'll be a Tory if it means I don't have to hang around people's ugly, shitty children.
No, I agree with you. I do fucking agree with you.
It's the way I don't have a problem with kids. I have a problem with the way they are fucking allowed to behave. That's what I probably have a problem with the most. Like, fucking sort your ugly little troglodyte shites out, yeah? Like, when little Timmy starts fingering the cat, fucking discipline the little prick.
Yeah, I'm extra conscious whenever I'm out and about with the kids. I want to make sure that my kids are with me and are behaving and making sure they're okay. If we're in a beer garden or something like that, I will let my kids run about, but there are rules. If there's loads of tables about and if there's loads of people about, they're not fucking running about. They can only run about if there's not many people there, because then you're not fucking up anyone else's day.
Why we made playgrounds.
Yeah.
That does not mean the world is a fucking playground for you. Shut up,
Exactly.
sit down and eat your fucking spaghetti hoops and sausages. Get on my nerves.
Exactly. And no, but I'm extra conscious about all of that. So I'm massively.
Your kids have phones?
My daughter does.
How old is she?
11.
Do you think that's like okay for her age to have a phone?
I wouldn't have given it to her. Her mum wanted her to have it, but it's nice for her because she's obviously going into high school this next year, and will be able to hang out with her friends and stuff like that.
Good social device, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think.
Also because me and her mum aren't together, it's a nice way of her being able to be in contact with both of us.
That's true. Yeah, that is very true.
So that's a bit different. But no, I would be like, no, not until you're at least 13.
I think I was 12 when I got my first smartphone. It was like a Nokia 33 CE or something. It was just a terrible phone. No, it was a Motorola actually. And I was jealous because I had shit ringtones, and then my mates had the new orange phones which had like MIDI ringtones. I was like, fuck you. You're allowed to have a MIDI version of Limp Bizkit break stuff on your phone, and I have to deal with the shitty tone that I've got. Rubbish. And I used to get this is this is really aging me. I used to have 10 free texts a day. That's what you used to get. Everything was on credit, and you used to get 10 free texts a day. So what me and my mates would do is we would stay up super late, obviously, when we were supposed to be in bed, and we would wait until about 11, half 11 at night, and then we'd start texting each other, because as soon as midnight rolled around, you would then get your next 10 texts. So we were like, oh, how cool, we're using 20 texts. And that's fucking how depressing. Imagine going in there nowadays. Do you have a phone that has more than 10 free texts? Get the fuck out, Grandad. This is not for you.
That's pretty much my life.
Yeah. I'm becoming more and more aware of my mortality.
Well and truly. I know I'm getting old, and fuck beans is depressing. I was at work and I was talking to a parent and a child. Kid was about 14, and me and the parents started talking about music and gigs and stuff, and the girls started sighing, and I'm like, okay, well, what band do you like to listen to? And she went, oh, Neck Deep. I said, well, who are Neck Deep? I've not heard of them before. And then she sighed again and went, oh, it's kind of like pop punk. And I'm like, well, don't fucking roll your eyes at me. I was there at the fucking birth of it. Eat a dick. Fuck right off.
I think that's what makes it more difficult getting older, is that thing of like younger people. So like I've got two little sisters, one's 20 and one's 15, and me and the 15-year-old have an amazing relationship because she's like 15 going on 25, but she thinks I'm funny and cool. She's like, oh yeah, my older brother's funny and he does all these amazing things. You know, because most people's older brothers are just fucking weird or emo mutes that just sit indoors and listen to My Chemical Romance all day. Whereas it's like, oh, you know, my brother's running around in spandex and beating up people, you know, like stuff like that. But for the most part, young people are just so rudely dismissive of you and what you like. And that's a fine example of that. You know, she's rolling her eyes talking about Neck Deep. Never heard of them. Don't care. Like, you know, but the funny thing is they'll be the same. I think that's just ingrained in us now. It's like an evolutionary thing.
Oh yeah.
We'll have to be so rude and dismissive of the old once we get to a certain age.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean.
It's like you're past your point now. Fuck off.
Yeah. There's something I found very weird though with my kids. And it's something I keep on stepping back from it and going, no, you know what? That is weird. My kids think it's normal that their dad's on radio and does wrestling and stuff and knows wrestlers and, you know, knows bands and all that type of stuff. My kids think that's normal. You know, hearing their dad on a radio show will be like, yeah, that's dad. It's fine. I still find that really bizarre that that's normal to him.
Why do you want them to think it's cool then, or
It'd be nice to think it's for them to think it's cool, pricks.
maybe they...
But I think it's a nice thing for them to have. Their life isn't the standard day-to-day thing. They will be able to turn around and go, oh, well, yeah, we went and did this thing. And, we went backstage to a wrestling show and hung out with the wrestlers. And, we played fucking Mario Kart with Leah Raven and all that type of shit. It's just,
Love
I
to play Mario
love
Kart with Leah Raven.
I love that they have that thing. It's quite nice. But
I'll bring my Switch.
yeah, you should do. But yeah, I do. I still have that. I still find it weird, but it's nice.
Every now and then you meet young people who are more conducive and more enamored by the concept of talking to older people. Like they find that interesting.
Yeah.
That's why me and my sister have such a good relationship, because she's very intelligent for her age. She has a very different family, obviously. She's on the Muslim side of the family. She's devoutly Islamic. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. This was what was leading to my story, though. Do you know about Islam and Judgment Day?
No.
I highly suggest not reading up on it, because it will give you the mother of all depression. Now, you think Christianity is something else. Now, this is definitely going to lead to me getting either hate mail or being shot in the street by some lunatic extremist. But so me and my sister were having this conversation because I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying she would like me to be not necessarily religious, but more, shall we say, not even accepting, because I'm fully accepting of who she is and what she believes in. I think she'd like me in some way to embrace some of the values of Islam. Because it's all about fasting and repenting and discipline and showing restraint, which are all things that I do not do, and have no godly worth of how to do or want to do. So we had this really deep conversation the other night, and it was a lot of fun. And what I like about her is she finds the more stand-up elements of me very funny. Because I'm very good at improv humor, aren't I, off of what other people say. That's my thing. And so she's like, so I said to her, okay, what happens when you die? And that was a loaded question in Islam. So apparently, you can't, I'm probably going to get corrected by people, but according to her, you can't be cremated if you're a Muslim. You can only be buried. So the idea is that you are buried in silk, and your body is cleansed using eucalyptus. It's lovely. So at least you'll smell nice. And then apparently when you die, your soul obviously awakens in your grave. And this, obviously I'm paraphrasing, so please don't fucking start messaging me going, actually the Quran states, and then give me this.
I think you'll find.
Shut up, Brian. So the bottom line is, nobody cares what you think, and Keith, you've got no right to fucking question anyone with a shit name like that. But the bottom line is, so these two angel demons will turn up, and they will ask you what your faith is, who you answer to, and who your prophet is, and you're supposed to answer correctly. You're supposed to say that obviously you believe in Allah, He is your God, Muhammad is your prophet, and that you are, a follower of the Islamic faith. And if you do so, you will be gifted a larger grave in which your soul will be able to enjoy. If not, if you answer incorrectly, your grave will close upon you and you will be tortured within your grave. Now, that doesn't mean you'll necessarily go into heaven or hell. And then all of a sudden, these trials start coming up, these judgment days. There is the belief that the river Euphrates, which I believe is around Persia sort of area, Turkey, that kind of sort of region, it's apparently going to dry up soon. And the Quran believes that, has actually stated in some form or fashion, don't know how the scripture has been interpreted, that when it dries up, there will be a river full of untold amounts of gold, almost infinite wealth. This will then trigger world wars between countries, which I can fully believe.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I can definitely believe from all this, it is that man will get greedy and shit will happen. That will be one of the signs of Judgment Day. There is this thing, I think it's called Munaj and Yunaj, and the idea is that they were two entities, human-like entities, that basically became too greedy and rebelled against the very definition of what it is to be a Muslim, and no repenting, no fasting, none of that Ramadan stuff. They were like, nope, let's fucking get right into it and eat and drink everything. And they have become feral like creatures, and they have amassed a incredible, untold, sizable army of evil, world devouring, swarm like soldiers. And these soldiers, they do believe genuinely, are somewhere within the Russian territories or possibly in that region, and they're hidden in a complex / wall that nobody's aware of. And the reason that they are not released is because prayer helps rebuild the wall. Like I say, obviously this is from a 15-year-old girl, so who is my sister, so take it with a pinch of salt, I guess. I'm not going to get all the facts right, but apparently this wall will come down once all the Muslims ascend or leave, and then that will lead to they will basically run rampant and destroy the earth, and whoever's left will then be left to either rebuild or deal with Judgment Day. There's also this very wild prophecy that Allah will send this alien-like one-eyed entity who can walk 1,000 kilometers with one step, and he will try and lure as many souls into the abyss, promising them heaven, when in actual fact they will be believing in a false god and will go to hell. And then Jesus will apparently arrive and kill him. Gets crazier, and then that will spark world wars, which we will have to go for more world wars. Good stuff. And basically we're fucked. It's all I'm hearing from this.
So with the dude who can take who can walk thousands of miles with one step, is he just really big, or does he have really long legs?
This was the thing that fascinated me. Is he like 15 miles tall? Is he a kaiju, for instance? Are we going to have like a Pacific Rim thing? God hope not, because that film was fucking terrible. Or are we going to have, sorry, but it is, you can rim our Pacific, your rim, never mind that. Fucking useless.
Yeah, you will.
Fuck it will, mate. Seriously, your rim will feel like the Pacific when I'm done. It's one of those things. There's an image for you. Even more haunting than anything is like.
There's not going to be many podcasts that can go from the Islamic version of Armageddon to rimming that quickly.
I know, right? That's what makes me such a horrific and yet intriguing possibility for someone.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
And by intriguing, I mean just shoot him in the head and be done with it. I'm fascinated by all these things. See, I'm fascinated by deities, the image of, I would love to know what Jesus Christ looked like, what a perceived God would look like. I'm not one of these people who's like, religion's a joke, fuck off. I'm more in the camp of, may not necessarily subscribe to any of it, but I'm always fascinated by the context of it and the historical nature of it, what the architecture brings, what what we deem heaven to be. Each religion has a different connotation of what they believe the afterlife will be. I'm fascinated by that stuff because whether you like it or not, religion makes up 90 to 95% of all of what we are as people. It has completely molded and it has completely driven the narrative of Earth for the most part. What do you think the Crusades? They're based on religion, What do you think the Empire? It's all, I'm ordained by God. All of these different flashpoints, horrible things like 9/11, stuff like that, all religiously motivated. Wars, everything based in some form or fashion around religion or the ideals that have come from religion that have led people to become such extremists, or the other way. But that's the other thing as well. My argument has always been that yes, religion, people always say to me the most devastating and most dangerous thing on earth has always been religion. It starts wars and it's always horrible, blah, blah, blah. But that's not necessarily true, is it? Think about how many people whose faith has driven them to do incredible and great things.
Yeah.
Think about the amount of incredible human beings, like Mother Teresa, for instance. Mother Teresa was not a terrorist. Mother Teresa was somebody who believed adamantly in her faith and spent her entire life giving to other people. That's a good thing. Religion can be used as a powerful tool to drive people to do good for others. It's not always about, I'm not saying, the argument would be, well, you don't need religion to be that way. Well, some people need different things. Some people need religion to be good. Some people need LSD. It entirely depends on how you're feeling on the day.
Yeah. And it is right, religion has caused a hell of a lot of the world's evils, but it's not to do with the religion. It's to do with the people doing it and their interpretation of it.
People's thought process that brings them to that mode. Like if you meet Muslims are incredibly peaceful, lovely people. Eccentric, different, colourful, diverse, sometimes hilarious, sometimes very macabre. There's some things that I don't particularly enjoy about a Muslim household or Islamic, especially being brought up in one as a child. But, an Islamic extremist, for instance, doesn't get to that point based solely off a religion. What they do is they then interpret their religion to how they wish it to be perceived. And it's interpretation, it's theories, it's perceptions that cause such otherworldly evils, not the actual originality of the text.
And also part of their mental illness. Because that's what it is. It's someone who is that.
We disappear in a couple of weeks, you know why?
Yeah. I think anyone who has that thing of, I want to go and kill someone, whether it is for religious reasons or not, they don't have that bit of their head that thinks about the consequences. But it's exactly the same thing. So someone saying that, all Muslims want to kill the Western world because of, the Quran, does that mean that all Beatles fans want to kill famous actresses because of fucking Charles Manson? You can't base an entire people on the actions of one.
This is what I call blanket theory.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't throw a blanket over an entire populace and generalize them in that way.
No, exactly.
That in itself causes a lot of ill will and ill feeling. Causes division, divisiveness, and division in general is what damages our society more than anything else.
Of course, Brexit.
Massive controversial opinion. I think any kind of political party with a name or a label or a color is bullshit. I think it's dangerous. I think what it does is it creates, so what it says, if you strip it all down to the bare basics, what you're essentially saying to people is you're either red, blue, green, purple, whatever it might be. Why? Why do I need to subscribe to a bracket? Because these people, for instance, people are like, you're a liberal. No, I'm not. I have liberal traits, but I don't believe in liberalism. I believe in being a good person and being a shit person. Making mistakes as a good person or making mistakes as a bad person, there's loads of different diversities that come within that theory. But for me, I believe more in one party for the good of all, as opposed to multiple parties representing different people. Yeah. Representation right there is not a good thing. We always talk about how everyone needs representation. We should be able to live in a society at this point with all the technology and the way we've evolved to a point where we can all live and breathe and be represented by one political party. That shouldn't be that big an issue. I'm sure some people are going, you're fucking communist. That's not the case at all. All of these things, socialism, communism, all these things, yes, they are prominent in our society, but they're all super divisive because you are never going to appeal to a general populace, all the while that you have people representing certain things. UKIP's representation was very much based on Britain first and getting rid of immigration and stuff. Very divisive, very dangerous, stupid line of thinking. Nigel Farage getting a fucking bit. However, on the flip side of things, we have someone like a Jeremy Corbyn who is naive enough to believe that, everyone can have money and everyone can do this and blah, blah, blah. And that's not how the world works either. Sorry, mate. Just not. We need to find middle ground that everybody can stand upon.
Yeah, exactly. And something was in my head then. Something was in my head. And no, that was it. The thing about representation and stuff, everyone has a vote and everyone's vote means exactly the same, which is depressing. Because your vote is exactly the same as that fella that has a Nazi flag in his front room. Also means exactly the same as that person who lives down the road who eats shit. Exactly the same, as that woman who wipes a vagina up and down the lamppost. They all mean the same. How the fuck does that happen?
That's because we want to live in a society where we claim that equality is important, but the problem is that it's not, because yes, your vote means the same as everyone else, whether they be a Nazi lunatic, a shit-eating homeless person, or a billionaire on the street. But the bottom line is that those people then have qualifiers that make their votes or make their opinions more important.
Yeah.
We are able to be persuasive through the devices of what we can offer. This society isn't about, we're not driven by that sole need for everyone to be able to live a life that they can enjoy. We're driven by that persuasive nature of what do people have to offer us. A Tory or an MP in general is always going to take on board or drive their narrative from people who are able to offer them something more, whether that be donors who offer them hundreds of thousands of pounds, people who can afford them the ability to live in a second house for free. We live in a society where even the best of us will always favor somebody who can give us something.
Yeah.
And that can be good and bad. But ironically enough, when I hear people scream about equality, coming from a very different lifestyle and a different background and being abused a lot as a young man, being from a different family, equality actually truly lies in not recognizing anything. It's an upsetting opinion. Do I like pride, for instance? Yes, I do. I think that's important because what it does is it educates us about a demographic of people that for the longest time were much maligned for being different to us.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of different, it's not just pride, Black History Month, cancer awareness, it could be any number of things. Ironically enough, as hard as it is to say, you have to completely remove all of that for true equality to stand. The good and the bad. Because the bottom line is, if you make, I personally like being educated about the history of homosexuality. But especially being pansexual, it's very interesting to me. But it's one of those things where I genuinely think, and it upsets a lot of people, and I've lost a lot of friends this way, but I just believe that if you want true equality, if you want true diversity, you have to basically eliminate all of those labels. You have to live in a society where you are only recognized solely as a human being and nothing else.
Yeah.
You do not classify, I like representation in Middle Eastern wrestling, right? Because I'm Middle Eastern. Or I come from a Middle Eastern background, a Middle Eastern family. So for me, I'm like, I want to see a prominent Middle Eastern wrestler. I would like a Mustafa Ali, to be a world champion. I want somebody that I can say that person represents my culture. And therein lies me being a massive hypocrite. Because what I'm saying is there shouldn't be any. Unfortunately, we kind of, and I get why we have things like pride. What we have to do is empower every single one of these brackets, every single one of these demographics to a point where they are equal with everyone else. Then we completely remove them. And we say, right, shackles are off. You're no longer represented by your sexuality. You are represented as a human because you now have true equality. So it's a difficult balance. The problem is it's so difficult, it's so dense, and it's so in-depth that you will never truly see what you want because people will always have a very selfish and divisive nature. Even the best of us, we are looking for something or we are looking to achieve something that doesn't benefit everyone.
Yeah.
Whatever we do.
Exactly. And they've...
fucked.
We are. And it's people's selfishness that will mean that will never happen.
Yeah.
Back when Jodie Whittaker was going to be Doctor Who, someone came out and went, oh, why is it a female Doctor Who now? Boys need representation, without realizing the irony of that fucking sentence. Why can't boys have someone to look up to? Yeah,
a black James Bond?
Yeah, because they've got nothing else in their lives, have they?
Yeah. Yeah, like, especially you white men, like, you must have a really hard time of it.
You're in that as well.
How dare you? The more somebody references it to me, the more I get offended because I just hate white people. Do you know what?
Every week.
I do. Like, there's a lot of white people. I just think you are white. Like, there's being a white person, and then there's just being outright white. You know what I mean? There's and people don't understand what I mean. Like, stop being so goddamn white. Stop waving your privilege around without even knowing what it means. It's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm not woke in the slightest. I'm incredibly contentious and incredibly divisive. I don't subscribe to your stupid theories.
I would say you are woke.
I don't think so.
But don't you know what? Do you know the point of being woke? Just conscious about other people's feelings.
Yeah, but see, that's again falls into that label bracket. Why are we putting labels on it? As soon as you put a label on it, what it does is it affords somebody who doesn't subscribe to that to be able to use that as an offensive term.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So as soon as I say that I'm woke, people are like, snowflake, F word, whatever it might be.
yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking,
Hey, it's weaponized, then misused, and then you're like, what the fuck is the point
yeah.
of you?
And then it becomes a case for debate and anger more so than just being an outright factual basis of let's be good people, let's be conscious of each other.
Yeah.
We should all, like, for instance, we should all be feminists. But by throwing a word like feminism out there, people hear it and they use it as a negative connotation.
Yeah. No.
Mansplaining is the same thing. It's not a thing, doesn't exist. That upsets women tremendously. I know a lot of women have said, mansplaining isn't a thing. No, what it is men being obnoxious and using their privilege. It's got nothing. You can put that word mansplaining on it, that's fine. But all that does is create more division because then stupid men like Keith and Brian decide, well, I'm not mansplaining. I'm just telling you the fact. And then, of course, they take offense to it. And for whatever reason, they act or degrade themselves in a certain way, which, yes, makes other men look bad. And then you get this new thing. Not all other men. That's the argument, isn't it? Not all men.
No, fucking men are the worst.
Oh, yeah. Like, we know by our very nature and our internalized feelings of caveman-like necessity that we are scum. But there are people like us who genuinely try our hardest to be the best of ourselves. And it can be very difficult to be told you're a mansplainer or that you're part of the not all other men brigade. As soon as you start throwing people in the labels, they feel, and of course they're going to feel a need to defend themselves. Because if you just accept that, if you just accept that somebody says you're a mansplainer or you're a misogynist or whatever reason, without truly explaining why, people are like, well, no, why should I subscribe to those labels? Why should I just be forced into a bracket or a line of thinking just because, and this is the other thing as well, just because somebody's hurt you doesn't mean that everybody who subscribes to that label or demographic is the same.
Yeah. We're in a very weird place now when it comes to shit like that, though. Like, I remember when the fucking not all men thing came about, and I'm just like, well, yeah, because they're not talking about you. It's like when you've broken up with someone, they go, oh, yeah, women are just bitches. We're not talking about all fucking women, just specific bitches.
Yeah, the funny thing is, it works both ways.
Yeah.
I do think that we're getting to a point in society now where meeting people, having sexual relations, whatever it might be, whether you want to be loose or casual, or if you want a relationship, whatever you're trying to pursue, is at its most difficult it's ever been. Because people have such a heightened sense of fear based on the arguments of others. At any point, you can pick up your phone, go through social media, go on the news, and you will see horrific things or horrible fucking things. This poor woman who was, murdered while just walking home from the pub. Like horrible shit like that, which has no place in our society. But then what it does is everybody attaches themselves to that thought process. And sometimes you can understand why, and sometimes you think it might be a bit too dramatic. You understand why they do it. I understand why after that, especially, so many women were like, we're sick and tired of being attacked and catcalled and hounded and whatever it might be. Absolutely. You will get nothing but sympathy from me in that regard. I just don't think that should be a thing. However, what it's doing is then creating difficult societal issues for everyone else. Basically, if a man goes out tonight and decides, I'm going to do something horrible and lecherous to a woman or a man in a park or whatever, or something, so horribly divisive and evil, that's fucking awful. But that person should be persecuted individually for that crime. When we then say, oh, that's just men in general, isn't it? No, it's a horrible way to look at it. Because as soon as you do that, not only you're not just hurting us. I don't care about us. If we choose to fucking do that, that's our fucking problem. We need to be better. However, if you feel that way, you're actually hurting yourself more because what you're essentially, and there's nothing wrong with being fearful. I understand that. But what you're essentially saying is that I saw this on the news. For instance, 9/11, right? It is a ridiculous reaction after that to say, I will never fly again. Because there is that 1 in a billion chance that might possibly happen to me. You can't do stuff like that.
Yeah.
because you won't be able to live. Not for our sake, for yourself. It's very, very dangerous ground. And I'm sure a lot of what I've said is going to upset people. That's fine too. You have a right to be upset, just as I have a right to express my opinion. You have a right to be offended. I have a right to not care if you're offended as well. That's the hilarious thing about free speech. Free speech works in every way, not just in the ways you want it to.
Yep. Yeah. And I get it, because again, I'm fearful because I don't want to be things I say or do to be taken the wrong way. And I think that's less to do with the way media portrays things like that and more to do with my own internal monologue of just don't fucking just let people like you. Just let people like you. Just don't be a dick to people. And I'm in a bit of a weird position at the moment. I've had a friend of mine who has been assaulted, which is fucking disgusting. She doesn't want to do anything about it. She doesn't want to contact anyone about it, and that is her right. She's more than welcome to. I want to be able to do better for her. I want to be able to kind of help her out any way she can, but it's up to her what she does. And the more I hear about shit like this, the more I'm like, just men in the male species are disgusting because this is acceptable in their eyes, and they think it's
because it's been their culture since their birth.
yeah, and
That
that's
they have always been in a position of strength and power.
yeah, and that's fucking depressing.
Yeah, it is depressing.
And I am glad that I'm on the other side of it, where I don't think, where I'm aware of my privilege, you know, I'm aware of it, and I try my best to kind of take that step back and go, no, it's other people's turn now. It's like we were talking about on the first episode of, you know, let's take a step to the side rather than a step back and let someone else through for a change. I know that men have been in a position of power, and trying to force my opinion on anyone, let alone anything else, is fucking difficult for me because I can't do it because I am ultra aware of it. And hopefully I'm teaching my son that as well. Teaching him that he is an equal. He's not in charge of anyone. He's not in charge of anything. He has to respect everyone as they are like him. And it's working. He is a really fucking lovely kid. If I ever find out that he does anything nasty and shitty like that, I'm going to wring his fucking neck. Which he won't, though, because he has got a lot of women in his life who would also wring his fucking neck, and he's petrified them.
Yeah, I don't know. I could go on about it for hours, but I don't feel like anything will be accomplished, you know? I've got to that stage where I think that's my viewpoint, that's where I sit on it. I like to think that at any point I will protect or care for anyone, regardless of gender, age, discrimination, whatever that might be. But even that in itself causes people, whatever you say, you're going to upset somebody. Doesn't matter what you say.
Yeah.
Unless you are a completely bland vessel like Keith, you are always going to annoy somebody. You're always going to upset somebody. I do feel like living in that society makes it very difficult to meet people who are either like-minded or people who are willing to take. Because whenever you meet somebody, whether it be a friend, a partner, whether you're going on a date, all of that has a risk.
Mm-hmm.
All of that, you have to be vulnerable to let someone in to a certain degree. I've had that, problem recently, as you know, where people haven't wanted to let me in because of fears of things that have happened in the past. Words are words. I know within myself that I would never abuse or violently, force myself upon anybody. I know that I wouldn't do something horrible like that at all. But that doesn't mean anything to that person.
Yeah.
Because of their past experiences. And I respect that. But it also does bring about an incredible amount of sadness and frustration. That when you meet people that you think might be good for you and they won't let you in because of that, I don't hate them. I'm not upset at them, but I'm frustrated in some level, I'm frustrated in myself because it's not up to me to take that personally, but a lot of us do. Because we think, you genuinely think, oh, if I was good enough, that person would let me in anyway. And then vice versa. There's nothing wrong with that person either. Sometimes the circumstance just fucking sucks and you have to swallow it and move on. And that does suck. But, obviously it's much easier for me now being in a more mentally level state. I find it easier to cope with those sort of things. I just think, okay, that's your issue to work with. I'll always be here if you want care or kindness. Otherwise, I will leave you alone because that's your space. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
That comes with age as well. It's difficult. It's worse when you're younger because you don't understand or respect people's boundaries as well, especially if you're not taught properly by your parents or the education system, which for me is a fucking joke within itself.
Yeah. I think that's another episode, that one.
Yeah. Coming up next week, the Tories in education.
Fucking, it's been a depressing one, this one, hasn't
it? This is the problem, though, isn't it? The world we live in is depressing, so it is what
Weirdly,
it is.
last week when we spoke about mental health issues was funnier.
It was also very therapeutic, despite talking about very serious things. So, how is your mental health this week? Other than obviously, I know you said that this issue at work triggered you.
As I mentioned at the top of the show, it's been a difficult one.
You think you're on a low right now, like
because of that. But again, it's me and my parents kind of like to call it my period, my one time a month where it is my time of the month to have my body not play properly.
Isn't it funny? Because even just saying that would be deemed offensive to some people.
Yeah, but it's I'm
not saying I find it offensive. I just think it's really funny.
Yeah.
Because after all we've spoken about, even something as kind-hearted and honest as that, which should be very jovial and playful, might be unnecessary to somebody. And that therein lies the issue of you'll never please everybody. You'll never please even a small minority.
Mm-hmm. But again, at the end of the day, everybody, if you are offended by what I've said, think about it the biological way. A period is the body getting rid of 1 month's worth of hormones and stuff to get their body ready for a thing.
Are you mansplaining? Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's what my time of the month is. My time of the month is my brain going, no, you need to get all this chemical out somehow. You're getting it all fucking out in one go, and it's going to be bad for everyone involved.
Fair. Absolutely fair. Yeah. What's planned for the weekend?
This weekend, nothing. Have no kids, no gigs, no wrestling.
No kids.
Nope.
That means you can expect a number of annoying phone calls.
Fine with me.
Good news.
You're working.
That's not work. Define working. No, I just, do you know what? Like, that's something that I've really enjoyed as I've got older. Having conversations, having proper conversations that don't involve staring at a screen and texting.
Do
you know what? The amount of people I've met who are like, I don't really like phone calls. I like to text people. Really? Like, okay, cool. That's your choice, and I respect that. But I can't live that way.
Yeah,
Ebenezer rang me up earlier. Just want to have a chat, mate. That's lovely. Yeah. That's nice. That's fun. Have a chat with someone. Check in with people. Tell them you love them. Tell them you care about them. That's a good thing.
Yeah. But I think that's what we do. It's because of what we do for a living. Where we talk for a living. We have conversations for a living. We don't have the awkward silences. We have no time for the awkward silences. Any awkward silence is dead air, and we can't fucking have it.
I enjoy the idea of people being able to see me when they hear me. It's easier for you to understand tone. It doesn't get lost in translation.
It's only because you usually have your dick out when you're trying to talk to someone. I could see it. It's not even my fucking business dick thumb.
I mean, that would be good news for me if that is the case. About 1.5 feet. Well,
I'm just very close to the screen.
Bad news for whoever. Yeah, right. My neighbours have got a very Dharma-esque feeling going on about me at the moment. My neighbours hate me anyway. It's really funny.
Because you keep on drilling through the wall and shoving your knob through it
I don't do that.
anymore.
That's a white man thing.
Fucking is.
Yeah. Medium caramel people, we don't do that.
Are you sure?
We
You have to
normally
put a cloth
send a
over it
letter.
or
We
something.
normally send a letter of intent first, then start drilling.
I was going to say, do you have to then put a cloth over it? I don't know how it works.
I mean, more a napkin, but
Big fucking napkin.
I've told you to stop looking. Typical
Why
man.
do we always go down to this?
Typical man. Yeah, you're the one who always brings up my penis. I've noticed this. You bring up my penis. By the way, love the
I bet I do. I bet I do.
I won't say what it was, but love the Instagram question I got the other day from you.
That wasn't me. How do you know that was me?
Oh, because it had your name on it. And the only other people that you share a living space with are very young. So I know it's you, you're crashing. Either that or you've given your phone to Ebenezer at some point. Are you coming to play wrestling dress tomorrow?
Yeah, probably.
10:30.
Yeah.
If not, we can at least do watch alongs beforehand.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Check out our watch alongs on WrestlePlug. We're now starting to slowly move away from wrestling a little bit. We're doing slap fights and stuff like that now. It's immature fucking bullshit and it's highly offensive. But if you can tolerate that, and bearing in mind you have a right and a choice as to what you click on, check it out. You might find it fun. More Silent Mark content on the WrestlePlug. It's a good thing.
I'm there occasionally. I will when you watch it, I will be in a monkey onesie.
Showing off his bum penis.
Yeah. Showing off my thumb knob. Twice, but you only noticed once.
You know what I don't notice? Because laptops is here. Camera's there.
Yeah. So that's why I do it. Kind of just occasionally bring it up, see what happens.
Nobody's noticed it yet.
Good. I sent a
picture. Noticed your thumb penis.
I sent a video of it to Rob, and he was very happy that I'm pushing it out into the wider world.
Has Ethan listened to this yet?
Don't know. He hasn't said so.
I was going to say, if he listens to the last couple of episodes, you'll know about it.
Yeah. Fuck you, Ethan.
Good job on Odyssey, by the way. Please give me a job. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, next year is going to be good.
Yeah, absolutely.
First show's a fucking rumble.
Bring me in, mate. Yeah.
The first show is a fucking rumble.
Oh, I love rumbles. Proper rumbles. CWP, the charity promotion I work with, we had a 30-man Royal Rumble last November. It was fantastic. Trying to coordinate that many people in a building is hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
With this list up, and so, the owner asked me, he said, can you book this match for me? I've got no clue and I have no interest in doing it. I was like, cool, I'll do it because I thought it was fun. My OCD brain was like, this would be cool because so-and-so's got a rivalry with so-and-so. And I wrote it all out. And then I remember just running around like a lunatic because I was doing 15 different jobs for this one show. And I remember at one point just quickly running backstage and they're just on the clipboard, just changing them all around. Like, actually, I'd rather come in at this number. Actually, I want to come in at this number. And I was like, therein lies the fucking problem with it.
You're going, no, fuck you.
Yeah, I was just like, do you know what? Just do your own thing. And then I was number 30 and I chose not to go in because I was quite ill. And it's very difficult to prepare to be a wrestler if you're also recording the whole show.
Yeah.
And it can be too difficult. I would like to try it at some point. There was a show where I was called upon very last minute to be a referee for the first match. And then I rolled out and then did the roaming recording for the rest of it. And that was fun. But even then I thought, do you know what? If I have a job and I'm being paid to do said job, I like to give that 100% focus. I don't like spreading myself thin in that regard, even if I can do it. It's nice to be able to come away and say, hey, I did 3 different jobs today and still got paid well. But there is always that worry of, because I refereed that match, the footage is compromised because there's no roaming camera. And then the other 4 matches look much better. It's things like that. So
do I know what you need to do with it? Make it a rumble. Make sure you have someone in the wings who can take the video camera from you and use it as a storyline or use it as an in. So be out of the ring and doing your job, and then suddenly number 30, Aeron nicks, you smile at the fucking crowd, pass your camera on, and then you're in.
So what we were going to do, actually, so you were on the same wavelength. What we were going to do, Ebenezer was in that rumble, and at some point he gets eliminated. So what was going to happen was I was recording. He was going to get thrown out, and this is if I was well enough to do it. And in the end, I opted not to. But if I was well enough, he was going to get thrown out, and I was going to be behind the camera going, ha, 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 laughing at him. And he gets up, looks right at the camera, and goes, "Oh, you think you can do better, prick? Why don't you try it?" I'm like, "All right then, I fucking will." He was like, "Yeah, I bet I can do your job better." "Yeah, try it then, dickhead." He takes the camera. I go backstage. I come back out in all my gear. Death machine, start wrecking shop. Then I get eliminated, and he's like, "Ha, told you." And I'm like, "Give me my camera back, dickhead." And it goes from there.
Perfect.
Yeah. There you go, Odyssey. That's my debut sorted.
Fucking done.
I'm not
Fucking
getting in the
done.
ring with 2-bit. I'll knock my head off.
I've written it.
Love to do commentary. That'd be fun.
No, it'd be good. I did my first commentary that week. Did I tell you about that?
No.
Yeah. Simon Hill had to go and quickly go backstage due to a medical emergency. So shall we
Was
say?
that on the last show?
Yeah, on the last show. So he came up to me. I was on the announce table, and he goes, "No, I was on the timekeeper's table." And he goes, "Can you just take over for a second?" So I went back and did a little bit of that, and I went, "Right, I need to go and host for a bit." So I went out and hosted, and then when I finished that, I went back up and started commentating again.
Oh, how did Morecambe get on this weekend?
Drew.
Again.
Yeah.
We beat Ipswich, mate.
I know, that was fucking impressive.
And then I watched Pompey get spanked on Monday, which amused me even more. Because I have such a close relationship with Portsmouth Football Club. Because I used to play for the youth team. I used to go and watch them a lot as a kid. And now I fucking detest them because their fans are wankers. And yeah, you're all watching and you're all wankers. Where's the wanker with a bell? Exactly. But you got one fucking song and your atmosphere is shit. Get over it. It's one of those things where because obviously I worked in Portsmouth for so long as a postman, surrounded by like 100 different season ticket holders all the fucking time. Lincoln are shit, Lincoln are an hour in the same division and all this. And I just think, yeah, you ain't running your mouths now, are you, League Oneers? Shut it. Plus, our atmosphere is better. We've got the best atmosphere in the league. Bite me.
I haven't been this season, so I won't fucking know.
Well, no, I mean, it's Morecambe, in it, so everyone's just thankful that they're somehow still alive.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. We used to have a reputation of having the best fans in the league because for a fact that after the game we'd have a pint with you.
Sometimes being the best fans isn't about making the most noise. Like, one of my favorite sets of fans is West Brom. And people are fucking, it's a dull, boring, outpost in the Midlands. But do you know what? Their fans were always so lovely and so fun to be around. I used to, for my sins, be a big Arsenal fan. I used to have a season ticket at Arsenal. And I remember West Brom played us in the League Cup. And they only brought about 800 fans, which, when you consider the Emirates and everything, doesn't sound very good. But they were all super passionate. And they were all in the pub with us beforehand. And a lot of times, these pubs are very segregated, aren't they? Oh, that's only for home fans. Your pub's down there, you dirty reprobate. And we were just like, come in the pub, have fun with us. And I've got this lovely photo with about 7 different West Brom fans. And they're all just like joining in the sing songs and taking the piss out of Tottenham and Chelsea and all this. And it was just like, that's what it's about. That's fun. I remember that. And every time I've gone there, their fans have been nothing but jovial, kind, joyous people. It's a lovely football club, West Brom. Got a lot of time for them.
Yeah. It's what I like about some football. Some of it. Not all of it.
I think it's better when you support a smaller team.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. That's why do you know what? I haven't been to an Arsenal game now in 12 years. And there's been a few people that I used to be associated with there when I was a bit of a naughty boy and stuff. And then, why don't you come back and watch? I have no interest in it. No interest at all. I like watching them on TV. They're a great team to watch, especially this season. They're top of the league and they're playing great football. But I love supporting my local team, my team that I was brought up in. That was the place I was born. It's lovely being an underdog sometimes. Sometimes it's nice to be the small guy in the big world.
Yeah. No, definitely. We always have been as Morecambe, and if we win something, we're impressed and surprised.
Yeah, when Lincoln won the Checker Trade, as it was, the Papa John's is now called, that was a huge deal. 28,000 of us went to Wembley. We got our stadium only holds 10,000,
Yeah.
and before that, I think I went to a game, Carshalton away in the FA Trophy. We played Carshalton away. This is when we were in the conference, when we had a really bad run of it, 2012, 2013 sort of period. I think it was 2015. We were in the conference, might have been later, I don't know the exact date, but we played Carshalton on a Tuesday night on my birthday. We had 13 fans in the away end. 13.
Mm-hmm.
Almost to the day, 5 years later, we beat Burnley in the FA Cup in the 5th round. And it's that feeling of, and I enjoyed Carshalton as much as I did Burnley.
Yeah. It's those matches that matter. It's good. It is good.
You have to love the lows as much as the highs. And you won't appreciate the highs without the lows anyway. And that's the problem when you support a big team. You don't know what a low is. Oh, no, we only finished 3rd in the Premier League. Oh, fucking boo-hoo.
Yeah.
I watched my team get relegated from League 2 by Aldershot 3-0 and went down to the conference. Yeah, you haven't known pain until you've been to Alfreton away. When you've watched your team lose in the last qualifying round of the FA Cup in front of 800 people in your own stadium. That's fucking pain.
It is.
Not, we only got a 0-0 draw with Dynamo Kiev. What a shame. Fuck off. You don't know pain. Yeah. You know nothing.
They can all eat dicks.
Yeah.
I think I saw something on Twitter the other day of, how come I have all these different, I've got BT Sport, I've got Sky, I've got this, that, and the other, all these things to watch, and I can't even watch my team on TV.
Yeah.
I've had to buy a video season ticket and a VPN to be able to watch mine. Eat a massive bellend.
Yeah, that's because, you're not important. Therein lies the equality again. I think Lincoln have been on TV twice in like 4 years, and that's because they made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Other than that, you'll never see them. They're never on TV. And they're in League One, and that's a competitive, strong division. Like, We're only 2 leagues below the Premier League, but that's enough for them. If you're not in the Championship or the Premier League, you ain't going to be seen that much.
No.
I have to watch my team's highlights on YouTube. It's only like 2.5 minutes. And I'm like, that was a good goal. But there's also the joy of knowing that on any given day, I can probably get a ticket and actually see them in person.
Exactly.
How many millions of Arsenal fans and Man United fans will never get to see their team play?
And you're not going to have to pay 300 quid for the privilege.
Yeah, being an Arsenal fan, that was an season. The average price of a season ticket there is like $2,000.
Fucking hell.
Fucking price of a car. Like, all right. Like, you're getting to, the argument is, you're getting to see a higher brand of football. But see, other countries don't do it that way. Do you know how much a season ticket is for Bayern Munich?
No.
For €100.
Fucking hell.
Because their owner, they asked him, they said, how come you don't charge so much? Why would I? We make absolutely millions upon millions on TV revenue. Why should we they have a ticket cap over there, so you can't charge a certain amount more.
That'd be good.
That's a civilized society, a high-end country with a high-end quality of football. How many times have you seen Bayern Munich or whoever, or Wolfsburg or whatever, crashing around in Europe? Bayern Munich smashing up Barca on any given night. And their fans are like, I remember they staged a protest because Arsenal charged them 65 quid for an away game. And then they lost 10-2 on aggregate over 2 games, which was very amusing. Arsenal did to Bayern Munich. And it was like, yeah, go fuck yourself. You can have both. You can be world class, and you can also treat your fans with respect.
You can.
That's in England. That's a big thing with England, especially. England has a big problem with that.
Oh yeah.
Snot.
Always.
Wankers, mate. Anything else you want to talk about?
Not this week, I don't think.
All right, fuck off then.
I think I'm spent.
You're spent?
Yeah, my brain hasn't got much in it today.
It's fair.
Apart from what we've already mentioned.
I mean, it was 2.5 hours last week, wasn't it? So
it was. That was a big episode.
So I want people to let us know if they want us to release the episodes quicker so that we can catch up, so that we can be topical. Because Silent Mark doesn't want to be topical. I think it makes sense from a standpoint of what we're talking about, so people can sort of be more relevant with it. But at the same time,
I don't mind. I'm quite happy being topical. I don't mind. I don't think we're not a news podcast.
No, but I also like the fact that, for instance, if we're living in a difficult time period in a week or whatever, for whatever reason, maybe there's a hike in petrol prices or, whatever it might be. I think it's nice that people can relate to that while they're listening to it.
Yeah, no, okay,
Instead
I'll
of
go with it.
thinking, oh yeah, I remember that 3 weeks ago, I was miserable too. Doesn't have the same effect for me.
All right, so it's his fault. What will happen is you'll get an episode on Wednesday, and then I'll put an episode out on Friday as well.
Sure.
And then obviously the next Wednesday we'll have this episode. So this episode will be out on the Wednesday after
It's not
the
really a bad thing though, is it? They get more content from us quicker.
Yeah, but it just means that we need to get our ass into gear.
Well, I can do that just fine. That's your problem.
It's because you've got the ass for it.
I do you know what? I've got a really small ass for a big guy.
I've got a surprisingly good ass.
Do you remember weird things from years ago that have no premise or no interest in what you're doing right now? I was sitting there the other day and there was this girl, right, called Kaylee, who used to be in my college class. And we're going back some, 20 years. And she was hot. She was a model. She was an alternative model, like the kind of woman you'd see on the Pulp Fiction poster. She looked like Uma Thurman, actually. And she really fancied me. And dumbass here didn't really notice because he was already interested in somebody else. When in actual fact, I'm looking back thinking, wow, that was a missed opportunity. But I always remember her, I remember she used to always slap my ass. Even when I had a girlfriend, she would slap my ass right in front of her. And, obviously that's contentious. And, me being a anxiety-riddled clown who thought he was horrendous, couldn't believe that a woman would even want to touch him. But I have weird thoughts, and this is what I mean when you said you have a lovely ass. Like, remember, she'd always slap my ass and go, "You actually have a really small, tight bottom for such a big guy." So what I'm saying is, when you're at a wrestling show and you see me, provided you're of age, slap me on the ass and see what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let him know you're doing it beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. Send a formal letter before you start drilling a hole in my wall and sticking your dick in it. But
we know what they're like.
They're those people. Keiths. Here we go. He's drilling the hole again.
How can I get in trouble? Right. Let's close it before I put my foot in even more.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Silent and Death Machine episode 4. It's been dark, it's been funny, it's been hilarious, and everything else in between. Throw out the 4. Next week, Booker T, sucker.
I'm not saying that one.
What, 5?
No, I'm not doing his promo for Hulk Hogan.
Oh, Christ, yeah.
Not doing it.
He still regrets that to this day, apparently.
You can see it in his face when he does it.
All you need to do, ladies and gentlemen, is type in to see that even the strongest of people can make mistakes. Type in Booker T, we coming for you. And watch the hilarity ensue.
Yes.
Good stuff. Great reactional moment. This has been episode 4. Like I've said, I've been Aeron X.
I have been Silent Mark.
And we are going somewhere. I'm not going to use the catchphrase I use on Wrestling. We're going now.
Bye-bye.
Don't forget the email as well.
Oh, yeah. Email us, silentdeathmachine@gmail.com. And on Twitter, we are S&DM Pod.
BDSM podcast, yeah. I mean, S&DM, yeah, that one.
Do it. And we'll see you next week.
Yes, we will. Take it easy, gang.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Fuck you.
Oi, Ethan.
Fuck you, Keith.
Fuck you, Keith. Fuck you, Brian. And in a more jovial way, fuck you, Ethan. Ethan? Fucking Ethan, honestly. You know what? Fuck you until you give me a job.
We'll keep on saying it until he does.
He's not going to give me a job. He's not going to pay my expenses.
Dude, he fucking gives me a job.
Well, yeah, that's because you live next door. I live 600 miles away.
Yeah, true.